For as long as I can remember, I believed love was supposed to come from a man. It was everywhere around me, in the movies where the girl always falls for the boy, in the love songs on the radio, in the stories my friends whispered about crushes and first dates. My family reminded me often that one day I would meet a good man, settle down, and live happily ever after. So I followed the script handed to me, never questioning it, never pausing to ask whether it fit who I really was. I smiled when people teased me about boyfriends. I listened politely when relatives asked when I would marry. And I tried, again and again, to find what they promised I would find. Over the years, 10 men passed through my life. Each of them different in their own way. Each of them carrying the hope that maybe he would be the one to light up my world. Some of them were kind and thoughtful, bringing me flowers and calling me late at night just to hear my voice. Others were selfish, caring more about their own needs than about the space we were trying to create together. A few were gentle and patient, while others were careless with my heart. And yet, in every relationship, no matter the man, there was always something missing. I laughed when I was supposed to laugh, held hands when I was supposed to, kissed when I was expected to, but it all felt like play acting, like I was performing in a role that had been written for me long before I was even born. I told myself over and over that maybe love wasn't like the movies. Maybe it didn't need to feel like fire in the chest or butterflies in the stomach. Maybe love was just calm, ordinary. Maybe it was something you chose every day, even if you didn't feel swept away by it. So I convinced myself that the lack of passion was normal, that I was expecting too much, that I needed to grow up and be realistic. But in the quiet moments, when I was alone and no one was watching, I felt the hollowness inside me. I longed for something I couldn't even name. I looked at women around me who seemed so alive in their relationships, glowing with joy, and I wondered what secret they had discovered that I hadn't. Still, I carried on, because admitting that the script didn't fit was terrifying. It would mean unraveling everything I thought I knew about love, about myself, about the future I was expected to build. It was easier to stay in denial, to keep trying with man after man, to keep hoping that one day the spark would just magically appear. But it never did. No matter how much effort I poured into those relationships, I always ended up feeling like something essential was missing. At the time, I thought maybe I was broken, incapable of loving the way others did. But the truth was simpler. I had been searching in the wrong direction all along. Each relationship I had only seemed to leave me more confused than the last. My friends couldn't understand why I kept ending things, or why the men I dated never stayed in my life for very long. They would tell me things like, "But he's such a good man," or "Don't you think you're being too picky?" I didn't know how to answer them, because on paper, they were right. Many of these men were good people. They had stable jobs. They were polite. They treated me with respect. Some of them even went out of their way to make me feel special. And yet, no matter how much effort they put in, I could never reciprocate with the same depth of feeling they seemed to have for me. My heart simply refused to open in the way I thought it should. Family made it even harder. My relatives, especially the older ones, didn't hesitate to remind me that I was getting older, that time was ticking, and that I shouldn't be wasting my best years. They said that marriage was about compromise, that love wasn't supposed to be all passion and excitement. "You'll grow into it," they told me. And so I tried to believe them. I tried to convince myself that what I felt, or what I didn't feel, was normal. I smiled at family gatherings when people hinted at marriage. I nodded when people praised the men I was dating. Outwardly, I looked like a woman who was moving through life exactly the way she was supposed to. But inwardly, I was unraveling. Because every time I kissed a man, it felt rehearsed. Every time I let one hold me, it felt like acting. I could go through the motions, but there was no electricity, no warmth spreading through me, no ache to be close. My body was present, but my soul was absent. I began to wonder if maybe love wasn't meant for me. Maybe I wasn't built for it. Maybe some people were just destined to walk through life alone. That thought haunted me, but it also seemed more believable than the idea that I might not actually want what the world told me I should. Still, late at night, when I was alone in my room, I felt the whisper of a truth I wasn't ready to face. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I caught myself admiring women in a way I had never admired men. Sometimes, I noticed how my chest tightened when a woman smiled at me, or how my breath caught when one brushed past me. I pushed those feelings down quickly, burying them under excuses. It's just admiration, I told myself. You just think she's beautiful in the way women appreciate beauty. But deep down, I knew it wasn't the same. Deep down, I knew those fleeting sparks were something more, something real. And yet, denial was easier. Denial kept me safe from questions, from judgment, from the fear of stepping outside the path that had been carved for me. So I kept playing the role, waiting for a love I knew would never come from a man. Until the day I met her. Until the day my entire world shifted with a single smile, one smile that reached into the emptiest corners of my heart and whispered, "Here I am." Her name was Layla, and she entered my life as if the universe had grown tired of watching me stumble in the dark. It wasn't a dramatic entrance, not the kind of moment you see in movies with music swelling and eyes locking across a crowded room. No, it was quiet, almost ordinary. But sometimes the most ordinary moments carry the greatest meaning. It was at a mutual friend's small gathering on a warm evening. The air was filled with chatter, laughter, and the hum of music playing faintly in the background. People were scattered across the living room and backyard, holding drinks, sharing stories, and moving about in the easy way that happens when friends come together. I was there out of obligation more than desire, standing in a corner and smiling politely at conversations that didn't hold my attention. I remember thinking, another night, another performance. And then she walked in. There was nothing particularly grand about her arrival, no spotlight, no announcement. But to me, the air shifted. She moved with a kind of quiet confidence, her shoulders relaxed, her steps unhurried, as if she belonged wherever she went. She greeted a few people warmly before her gaze swept across the room and landed, briefly, on me. That single glance, that fleeting connection, sent a shiver through me I couldn't explain. I told myself it was nothing, just a trick of the mind. But when she smiled, really smiled, it was as though the room had tilted slightly, pulling me toward her without permission. We spoke later that evening, almost by accident. Someone introduced us, and suddenly, there she was standing in front of me, her presence steady yet effortless. Her voice was soft, but carried a certainty that made you want to lean closer, to listen to every word. She didn't ask me the shallow questions others did. Instead, she asked about my thoughts, my dreams, the kind of questions that reached beneath the surface. And as I answered, I realized she was listening. Really listening, in a way so few people ever had. The more we talked, the more the rest of the party faded away. I barely noticed the laughter in the background, the clinking of glasses, the music that had once filled the room. All I could focus on was her, the curve of her lips when she smiled, the way her eyes seemed to hold entire stories within them, the comfort of her presence that felt at once unfamiliar and deeply known. Something inside me shifted that night. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. Recognition of a truth I had buried beneath years of denial. With Layla, I didn't feel like I was acting. I didn't feel like I had to mold myself into something I wasn't. For the first time, I felt seen, not as a woman performing in a script she never chose, but as myself. And that terrified me as much as it thrilled me. Because suddenly, the emptiness I had carried for so long had a name. And her name was Layla. At first, I tried to tell myself that what I felt for Layla was nothing more than admiration. I admired her confidence, her independence, the way she carried herself without apology. I admired how easily she could speak her mind, how her laughter filled the air without hesitation. But admiration doesn't make your pulse race when someone brushes past you. Admiration doesn't make your skin tingle at the slightest accidental touch. Admiration doesn't make you dream about the sound of someone's voice or replay conversations in your mind late at night, smiling like a fool under the covers. The truth was undeniable. Even if I kept trying to push it away, I was drawn to her in a way I had never been drawn to anyone before. Every time we were in the same room, my body betrayed me. My eyes searched for her unconsciously, scanning the crowd until they found her. My ears tuned into her laughter, even when it was mixed with dozens of other voices. My heart reacted to her presence as though it had been waiting its whole life for her to arrive. I remember one particular afternoon when a group of us went out for coffee. We were all crammed around a long table, chatting, sipping drinks, and trading jokes. She sat across from me, and while others spoke, I found myself stealing glances at her. She caught me once, her lips curving into a knowing smile, and I quickly looked away, embarrassed. But the warmth that surged through me in that instant lingered for hours afterward. No man had ever made me feel that way with just a look. Still, I fought against it. I told myself it was dangerous to feel this way. I reminded myself that I had tried so many times before, with men, and it had always ended in emptiness. Why would this be different? Was I really willing to throw away everything I thought I knew about myself, everything my family and society expected of me, just because of one woman? The questions tormented me, keeping me up at night, my chest tight with fear and longing all at once. And yet, every interaction with her chipped away at my resistance. The way she asked me how I was doing and seemed to genuinely care about my answer. The way she held my gaze just a little too long, like she was waiting for me to admit something I wasn't ready to. The way she brushed her hand against mine once, so casually it could have been an accident, but so charged that it left me breathless. I told myself it was impossible, that I couldn't fall for her. But the truth was that I already had. The more I tried to deny it, the stronger it grew. What I felt for Layla wasn't just a spark, it was a fire that had been waiting years to be lit. And now that it had, there was no going back. It happened on a quiet evening, the kind that seemed unremarkable at first, but would end up changing everything. We had spent the day together with friends, laughing, walking through the city streets, stopping at little cafes along the way. By the time the sun set, the others had gone home, leaving just the two of us. Neither of us wanted the day to end, so we lingered, wandering aimlessly until we found ourselves back at her apartment. The air inside was warm and calm, filled with the soft hum of music playing from a small speaker in the corner. We settled on the couch with cups of tea, our conversation flowing easily from silly topics to deeper truths. With her, I never felt the need to pretend. I didn't have to perform or measure my words. I could just be. That in itself was a revelation. As the night wore on, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter slowed, giving way to softer tones. We spoke about loneliness, about the weight of expectations, about what it meant to carry secrets that no one else could see. I don't know if she could sense how close I was to breaking, but she looked at me then with such intensity that I felt exposed, as if she could read every thought I had tried so desperately to bury. "You don't have to pretend," she whispered. Her voice was gentle, but it landed in me like a stone rippling across still water. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath caught in my throat. For a moment, I wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, to retreat behind the walls I had built my entire life. But something in her eyes held me there. Something in her gaze told me it was safe to stop running. She reached for my hand slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. The warmth of her skin against mine sent a wave of electricity rushing through me. It was such a simple gesture, yet it carried more truth than all the years I had spent with men combined. My walls cracked, then crumbled completely. And then it happened. She leaned in, her lips brushing against mine in the softest kiss, gentle, careful, almost questioning. My body froze for a heartbeat, and then every nerve came alive at once. The world fell away, leaving only her, only us, only this truth I could no longer deny. That kiss was nothing like the ones I had forced myself to give men. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't duty. It wasn't emptiness disguised as affection. It was real. In that single kiss, I felt the weight of years lift from my shoulders. I wasn't broken. I wasn't incapable of love. I had simply been searching in the wrong place. And now, with her lips on mine, with her hand holding mine steady, I finally understood what love was supposed to feel like. Falling in love with Layla felt effortless, natural, like slipping into a rhythm I had always known but had never danced to before. But the world outside of us wasn't nearly as simple. Inside her apartment, everything made sense. The laughter we shared, the warmth of her arms, the quiet safety of knowing I no longer had to hide from myself. Yet the moment I stepped back into the outside world, reality pressed down on me like a weight. At first, I kept our love to myself. It felt too precious, too fragile, too exposed to the scrutiny of others. But people noticed things. They noticed how my eyes lit up when Layla walked into a room, how my smile widened when she spoke to me, how inseparable we had quietly become. Friends began to ask questions, their tone half joking, but probing all the same. "You two spend a lot of time together, don't you? Or are you sure there's nothing going on?" Their words made my heart race. Not because I was ashamed of what I felt, but because I wasn't ready to share it with anyone else yet. When my family eventually noticed, the questions became heavier. My mother, in particular, didn't understand. She told me I was confusing friendship with something else. She insisted that what I felt was temporary, that I just hadn't met the right man yet. One day, she said, "You'll realize this isn't real love." But how could I believe that when every touch, every glance, every kiss with Layla felt more real than anything I had experienced in years of chasing men who never awakened my heart? The hardest part wasn't their disbelief, it was the way they tried to make me doubt myself. They spoke as if they knew my heart better than I did, as if I was just lost, misguided, or even rebellious. And for a while, I wavered. I asked myself if maybe they were right, if maybe what I felt was just a phase, some strange deviation that would fade with time. But then I would see Layla's face, hear her laugh, feel her hand intertwined with mine, and all the doubts melted away. Nothing about her, about us, felt like a mistake. Still, the conflict lingered. I wanted the world's approval. I had been raised to crave it, but I wanted her more. I had to learn that love doesn't always fit neatly into what society expects. Sometimes it defies traditions, sometimes it unsettles those who don't understand, but that doesn't make it wrong. It makes it brave. And slowly, I began to realize that choosing Layla wasn't just choosing her, it was choosing myself. With her, everything was different. The way she held me close as if I was the only person that mattered. The way she looked at me, not with judgment or expectation, but with acceptance. The way she made me feel seen in a world that always told me to hide. She was my truth, even if the world outside wasn't ready for it. And in the end, I decided that the world could wait. My love for her could not. Better than all of them. Sometimes, late at night, I find myself thinking back to the men who came before Layla, the 10 faces, the 10 names, the 10 chapters of my life that all ended the same way. At the time, I thought they were love. I tried so hard to convince myself that what I felt with them was enough. I laughed at their jokes, accepted their flowers, endured their flaws, and pretended that my heart was fluttering when it was, in truth, standing still. Looking back now, I see the pattern clearly. It was never about them. It was about me trying to fit into a story that was never mine to begin with. Each man had qualities people told me I should want. One was ambitious, another was caring, another came from a good family. I stayed with some longer than I should have, desperately waiting for that spark to appear. But it never did. There were moments of comfort, even moments of fondness, but never that deep pull that makes you feel alive in someone's presence. With them, love felt like a box I was trying to squeeze myself into, always too small, always uncomfortable, always missing something vital. Then came Layla. And with her, I realized the difference wasn't subtle, it was seismic. She didn't just make me smile, she made me feel seen. She didn't just listen to my words, she heard the silences between them. She didn't just hold my hand, she held my fears, my doubts, my hidden truths, and never flinched. With her, I wasn't trying to force myself to feel something. I simply felt it, naturally, deeply, without effort. The intimacy I shared with her surpassed anything I had experienced before. It wasn't about grand gestures or sweeping declarations, it was in the small things. The way she brushed a stray hair from my face. The way she noticed when I was quiet and gently asked what was wrong. The way her laughter lit up not just the room but my entire soul. These were the moments I had been chasing all along, but with the wrong people. It struck me then. It wasn't that I was incapable of love, as I once feared. It wasn't that my heart was broken or defective. It was that I had been searching in places it didn't belong. Those 10 men were not failures. They were lessons. They showed me the difference between existing in a relationship and truly living in one. They led me here to her. And so, when I say she was better than all of them, I don't mean it with bitterness. I don't mean it as a comparison of worth. I mean that with her, I discovered a kind of love that the others could never give me because it was never theirs to give. With Layla, I stopped pretending. With Layla, I stopped denying. With Layla, I finally understood what it meant to be whole. Our story was not a perfect fairy tale. Love with Layla was real, and real love always comes with its challenges. There were days when fear crept in, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of losing everything I thought I was supposed to be. There were nights when the weight of society's expectations pressed so heavily on me that I wondered if it would crush us. But through every storm, Layla stood beside me, steady as a lighthouse guiding me safely back to shore. She never demanded that I rush my journey. She only asked that I be honest with her, with myself. And slowly, I realized that the courage I needed was already inside me. She simply helped me find it. Choosing her was not just about choosing to love a woman, it was about choosing to love myself, fully and without apology. For years, I had denied who I was. I had hidden behind the safety of normal, afraid of what people might say if they saw the truth. But Layla's love taught me that authenticity is worth the risk, that living a half-life is no life at all. With her, I didn't just discover love, I discovered freedom. She showed me that love doesn't need to follow the script society writes for us. It doesn't need to look like everyone else's story. Love is not about gender or about what others approve of. It's about connection, about the way two souls recognize each other and say, "You are my home." That is what Layla became for me, a home, a safe place where I could rest, heal, and grow. When I think about the 10 men who passed through my life, I no longer feel regret. Each of them was part of my journey, part of the winding road that led me to her. They taught me patience, resilience, and clarity. Most importantly, they helped me understand what love is not, so that when I finally found it, I could recognize it instantly. They were chapters, but she became the story. And so, when I hold her hand now, I do it without fear. When I kiss her, I no longer wonder if it's wrong, I know it's right. When I say I love you, it carries the weight of years of silence finally broken, years of truth finally spoken aloud. This love may not be what the world expected of me, but it is everything I ever needed. 10 men couldn't compare. Not because they were unworthy, but because they were never mine. She was. She is. And she always will be. In her, I found the love that awakened me, the love that saved me, the love that finally made me whole. And if I had to walk through every denial, every doubt, every heartbreak all over again just to find her, I would. Because at the end of it all, Layla wasn't just better than all of them, she was the only one who ever truly felt like love.